Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today I have a mighty game review for you for a game called Day of Infamy. It is a World War II first-person shooter, and the developer and publisher is New World Interactive. This is also the same developer and publisher that worked on the Insurgency series, so you might have actually played some of their games. Day of Infamy was released on March 23rd, 2017 for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. It is a tactical simulation shooter, and it's primarily set in the European theater of World War II. Well, actually, it is only set in the European theater of World War II, and a vast amount of the stages is based on actual historical battles. One of the maps is Bastogne. There's one called Dog Red, which is essentially the D-Day beach landings. You have Dunkirk, Brittany, Foy, which is also technically part of the Battle of the Bulge. There's a vast amount of maps. I honestly can't remember all of them off the top of my head. Now, I'm going to primarily speak about the online co-op mode, because that's primarily what I've played, and that's really all I've actually played of this. I did mess around a little bit with the PvP and the single-player bot mode. Now, to put this out there is no single-player campaign. The single-player mode is essentially bots versus bots with you involved, and it's generally the same as what you'd have playing online as well. Great way to learn the maps, learn how the different equipment, weapons handles, and things of that nature. There is a vast amount of modes, and honestly, I don't know all the modes. Now, with the co-op, there is entrenchment, there is stronghold, and there is raid modes. Now, stronghold mode is essentially you are the attacking force. So if you're doing Dunkirk, the British is the defending force, and the Germans are the attacking force. With Bastogne, the Americans is the defending force, and the Germans is the attacking force. But for Foy, the Americans is actually the attacking force, because actually Foy is where the American paratroopers launched their counterattack against the Germans. So they're the Germans is the defending force. And in Stronghold, you have multiple objectives you have to deal with, such as point captures, fuel, destroying ammo and fuel dumps, destroying artillery emplacements, and finally, usually the last objective in a match is kill the commander, the general, if you will. With entrenchment, it's a little bit different. You're playing as the defender, and all you're really doing is defending for objectives and preventing the enemy from capturing them. It's one objective at a time. Then the enemy is the bots, and the bots are trying to capture the objectives. And then finally, with raid, you have 3 objectives. It could be a combination of anything. It could be an attack. It could be an attack and artillery placement, take out a supply point, capture a point, or assassinate a commander. There'll be 3 of those different objectives, and you actually have to find the objectives. You're not told where the objectives are. When you begin the match, you're only told the type of the objective. I really haven't done a whole lot of missions that were raid based. Most of the time, you're going to end up, if you're playing the co-op mode, most of the time you're going to be either playing Stronghold or Entrenchment, and that seems to be, generally speaking, the more popular of the modes. I feel, generally speaking, this sounds are pretty good. The explosions sound great. You can hear boots on the ground. The gunfire sounds fairly authentic. The reload animations are also pretty good. Things of that nature. The other thing to point out too is, like with artillery, well, with the different types of airstrikes, it's different for each army. So with the German military, when you call in an artillery strike, it's actually the Nebelwerfers. and you actually get that high-pitched screaming sound that the Nebelwolfers made when they were fired. With the Americans, though, it is actually your standard self-propelled artillery firepower. So it just sounds like a bunch of cannons going off and exploding, and I believe that is actually also the same for the British as well. For the airstrikes, not so much the carpet bombers. The carpet bombers all really sound the same to me. But for the airstrikes, your tactical airstrikes, you have gun runs, and then you have a Stuka dive bomber. The Germans get the Stukas. The Americans, if I recall, they get P-51 Mustangs for a gun run, and then the British gets a Typhoon. And the Typhoon and the P-51 Mustangs sound like two different planes, as well as the sounds for the Stuka dive bomber. And it sounds pretty authentic. It even gives that screaming sound that the Stukas gave off when they were coming in to drop their bombs. The firearm graphics and the soldier graphics are actually, I feel, pretty good. I can tell the different types of soldiers, what types of uniforms they're wearing. You can see emblems. So if you're playing a paratrooper from the 101st Airborne, you can actually see the 101st Airborne patch when you select the trooper. Same way with the 82nd, you have the 1st Ranger Division as well as the 2nd Ranger Division. You do have the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. You have various different skins. The music, it's your generic World War II video game type music. Nothing special there, but it does help with the immersion of the game. There's a large amount of servers on the game. This is a plus, but this is also kind of a downfall, and I'll get to that in a little bit with on my bad notation. But there's a lot of different servers to play on, as well as there's also a modded server called Screaming Steel, and it's actually a modified server where generally you're playing Day of Infamy, but you're playing as a World War I soldier with World War I equipment, World War I planes. Mustard gas is actually involved, though I haven't seen a way of doing it. I'm not sure if there is, but there's no gas mask, so that was actually, I felt, one downfall for the Day of Infamy Screaming Steel server. But I also have Tannenberg as well, which is a dedicated World War I shooter. That's very similar. The gunplay is amazing. The guns feel great. You know, the automatics, like if I was going to blast off with an MG42 hip firing, the gun just goes all over the fucking place. The Thompson, same way. If I'm not aiming, the gun sprays all over the place. But if I'm aimed, the gun actually pretty closely shoots where I'm aiming. It's not, the Thompson submachine gun's not the most accurate gun in the game by any stretch of the imagination. Actually, personally, the M3 grease gun is actually a more accurate gun. The selective fire weapons in the game, while not all guns in the game have selective fire modes, the selective fire modes for the guns that does have selective fire modes actually works. The FG42 here is one of them. It's actually got full automatic fire, and it's got semi-automatic fire. Now, generally speaking, as a bit of advice, use the semi-automatic fire unless you're sweeping a building or getting ready for a close quarter battle, because it is nowhere by any stretch of the imagination a very accurate weapon when fired in automatic. It does spray all over the place, plus it's only got a 20-shot magazine with an extremely high rate of fire, so you'll blow through the magazines very quickly. The game does have respawning, and that actually makes it more enjoyable, even playing PvP, you know, because the fact I could respawn, there was really no rage. It was just enjoyable, and it makes the games go for a better stretch of time. And honestly, it helps with the immersion by respawning, because your battles actually feel like real battles. You're respawning in a safe zone, a headquarters type area, and then you have to run back to the front of the line. So it's not like you're just respawning willy-nilly out of nowhere. There's actually dedicated respawn points that you're going to be respawned at. The enemy bots are actually quite dangerous. They will use cover fire. They will throw smoke. They will throw grenades. They will snipe you if they have a sniper rifle. They'll even snipe you with a bolt action rifle. The bots are actually quite dangerous. They will use some tactics. They will try to flank you, try to approach you from behind. It's happened quite a bit to me. It'd be nothing to kind of stick my machine gun out a window and suddenly get stabbed in the back by a bot. There is no HUD, and I actually like that. Once again, this is more about the immersion process. And I can't say that there's no HUD at all, because there is a HUD, but it's a disappearing HUD. So whenever I reload, or if I change my weapon, a little HUD will appear, and it will be stripped bare bones HUD. Such as with this machine gun here, I am actually wearing a heavy rig that allows me to carry a belt of ammo in the machine gun, plus 2 additional belts of ammo. And except for the fact that I know for a fact that the belts of ammo are 100 round belts, I actually do not know how many rounds is in each belt. So if I reload in the middle of a belt, I didn't know how many rounds there was in the middle of that belt, essentially. And that's the same way with all guns. You don't know actually how many rounds of ammunition you are carrying in that magazine. And that is actually one thing too, and this helps with the immersion. I keep bringing that immersion up. This game is actually really immersive for a first-person shooter. It's definitely way superior over Call of Duty. So if you're looking for a very good immersive World War II shooter, this is definitely superior to Call of Duty. These guys actually make EA games with Battlefield and makes Activision with Call of Duty look lazy, in my opinion. There's so much that these guys did well. But as to help with the immersion, with the Thompson submachine gun, you can carry 6 30-round magazines of ammo. Well, if you fire off 15 of your shots, we'll say, and you reload a full mag later, probably your last mag or near your last mag, you will actually reload a 15-shot magazine. So there is no magical ammo pool that keeps just magically creating magazines for you. You go into battle with 6 magazines of ammo, and the only time those magazines disappear is when you basically have emptied the magazine and generally are just going to empty it and throw it on the ground. Where with your half-loaded mags, you do more of like a tactical reload where you put it back in your pocket, well, in your magazine pouch. And there actually is no way to reload a half magazine in the game, which makes sense. You're talking high intensity combat. You're not going to really be screwing around all too much with unpacking a magazine and reloading a magazine. This is not Escape from Tarkov in that sense. It has a class system, which is one thing I like. So you do have levels in the game, and essentially what you do with your level is it just gives you a rank, kind of showing you how much you've played the game, how long you've played the game, maybe how many battles you've done, whatever. It's just kind of a generic rank thing. But the ranks actually gives you the different skins. As you level up through each rank, you will most likely unlock a skin. And actually, folks, this is some of the Screaming Steel gameplay here for you. You have different types of classes. It's not like Call of Duty where it's completely customized. If you're playing an officer, you have different weapons you can select from. You have different types of grenades to select from, different types of pistols to select from, things of that nature, and it's all different prices. So a officer, which this is actually true to World War II, officers during World War II were the ones that carried pistols. Generally speaking, NCOs would carry pistols as well, and vehicle crewmen would carry pistols. But your standard GI infantryman, your buck private out on the field, he most likely did not have a pistol unless he supplied that pistol himself. So for your rifleman, it's like 5 points to carry a Colt 1911. For your officer, though, it's 2 points to carry a Colt 1911. So most likely as an officer, you're going to have a Colt 1911, but you're not going to have a Colt 1911 as an infantryman. Usually, generally, as a rule of thumb. Now, there's a couple servers I play on where your points is 20 points to start instead of 10 points. 10 points is the default, and you gain points in your battles. I think it's per 10 assists, per 10 kills is a point, and then per objective is also a point. And then that you can modify your character class in battle, and the only way to get your new class modification is either die and respawn, or go to an ammo crate, which there's usually 1 or 2 on each map, and resupply. Which actually you can see some of the character creation here, where I'm selecting I can select a different type of skin, and I'm actually setting up a character class. And there's various different classes. Each class, like I said, has its own different equipment, and then different upgrades. So here you're seeing me, I'm playing the Grenadier, which is the German infantryman, and I could have actually attached a rifle grenade launcher system to my K98. With the officer, though, I cannot get the rifle grenade launcher system, even though I do believe the officer can carry a K98 as well. So that's something to think about. That's also the same case with the Panzer Grenadier. I think it's Panzer Grenadier. I could be mistaken. But that's the bazooka soldier, your anti-tank soldier, who's carrying either your demolitions expert, your engineer. He's carrying either TNT, or he's carrying a Panzerfaust or a Panzerschreck. For the Germans, for the Americans, obviously it's the M1 bazooka or TNT, and then usually you can carry a grenade. So it varies by what country you're playing, and it varies by what class you're playing. Now, at the end of each battle, your points reset, which kind of sucks, but that's how it works. Also, there's another nice mechanic with the class system. There's actually an officer and a radio man to call in things like airstrikes, call in supply drop, call in, a gun run, anything like that, artillery smoke. You need an officer, but you also need a radio man, and the radio man has to be next to the officer to make that happen. That is a very brilliant mechanic, and I like how they exploited the class system in that way. And then each different type of gun run special ability that the officer can call in has a cooldown after he calls it. General graphics, I feel, aren't horrible. They're not the greatest thing in the world. I mean, obviously, I'm in like a wooden bunker here, and the wood sort of looks like wood. The grass sort of looks like grass. Things like that. I mean, this is more of a neutral. They're not the best I've ever seen, even from a game from 2017. In fact, I've actually seen games older than this with much better graphics. However, there's not a high graphic demand either. And honestly, when the bullets start flying, the explosions start going off, and all kinds of chaos ensues, you're no longer paying attention to the fucking scenery, okay? You're looking at your guns, you're looking at what the hell's going on, and you're trying to find the enemy. So your scenery at that point doesn't become as important, we'll say. Most of the weapon sights are tiny. I really didn't like that. It's kind of hard sometimes to aim some of these guns. The Kar 98's one of those ones that's almost impossible to use the actual iron sights on. The BAR is really hard to use the iron sights on. Some of the guns, though, are really good. The M3 grease gun sights are amazing. Scopes are pretty good in general, although I feel that the Americans and the British I believe it's the Americans and the British I feel have the best scopes in the game. And then the bad. Let's get on to the ugly. We're going to call this the ugly. This isn't the bad. This is the ugly. The ally bots the AI for the allied bots is just absolutely fucking hot garbage. The enemy bots are really dangerous and can easily kill a player. Like I said, they'll do different types of tactics. They'll use suppressive fire. They'll throw smoke. They'll throw grenades. Do whatever they can to keep your head down. If they even see your shadow, they will start shooting at you. I've even been shot through windows that they suspected I was near. So just because you dove behind a wall from being out a window, it doesn't mean you're safe. They will try to shoot you through the wall if they can. The AI bots, on the other hand, though, they are absolutely retarded. AI bots should definitely be wearing football helmets whenever they're on the battlefield, and about all they are good for is being a placeholder for a player and cannon fodder. They will just run out in the middle of the road. They won't even take cover. They are just absolutely horrible. I don't know why the AI bots are so bad, but the enemy bots are so good. And there's definitely a slant in the AI skill scale in this game. And that actually makes playing single player really hard because generally speaking, your bots are not going to do much to really help you. And finally, the community to this game is really small. Now the game is a few years old. Obviously, we're looking at it's past the 3-year mark. It still does have a community, but generally speaking, I think the most players I've logged on and seen might have been 250, 260 players. And that is actually, I feel, one of the problems with having a large amount of servers. I'm sure once when the game originally had launched, having those large amount of servers was absolutely necessary to, seat players. But honestly, at this point, the game could have about 7 servers, and that wouldn't make much of a difference. Maybe 10 if you count in PvP. And out of the community, from what I can see, generally speaking, the high point of the community actually plays PvE, although there is people who play PvP. But anyway, so do I think this game is worth it? Well, the game does have one DLC, and it's more or less it's a skin pack, and then there's the base game itself. You can get the bundle for $20. If it wasn't for the community being so small, I would actually highly recommend this game. Like I said earlier, these guys really make the AAA developers like Activision and EA games look lazy. However, because of the size of the community and because of how shit AI bots are, well, AI friendly bots are, you got to make the call yourself, but personally, I wouldn't recommend it on that basis alone. Sometimes it gets really hard to find a group to play a game with. And in all honesty, there's actually times where I just quit playing because there was just no one to play with. But so there you go, folks. That is my review of Day of Infamy. I really do enjoy the game, but personally, because of the community situation right now with Day of Infamy, I unfortunately cannot recommend it. And who knows if something drastically changes where suddenly there's people off the wall playing Day of Infamy, I may take a moment, make a video, and do an announcement or say something in my Discord or say something on my Twitter. I really would like to see a lot of people playing this game, but it's just not happening right now. Anyway, folks, hopefully you enjoyed my review. Thank you very much for watching, and please hit the like button if you did enjoy the video. Thank you again, and have yourself a great week.